Well, today we're absolutely blessed to have the wonderful Catherine Edwards, and she's here today to speak to me, which is so nice of her. Now, Catherine is a holistic biologist, and she's going to explain what that is. And I think it's such a lovely job title, isn't it, Catherine?
Yeah, completely made up, but it seems to fit what I'm doing these days. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how did you get to that stage? Was that a recent thing, or because you've been doing this since 2020, and I gather by your Facebook profile that you weren't a very happy bunny in 2020. That's obviously kicked you, as a lot of the rest of us, into a new gear, hasn't it? So, what are you up to at the moment? Because you're very busy, from what I
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. Well, holistic biologist. I mean, I'm a biologist by trade, that's what I've studied in, and I love biology, love science. But over the last sort of 20 years, I've added to that loads of holistic therapies, both with animals and with humans. And so it's really, really hard putting a label on yourself because obviously so many people that are probably watching your channel and mine have completely lost trust in the science. But it's what I try to do is I take the good bits from all the ancient wisdom. I do iridology, I do herbal medicine, I do light therapy, I do energy healing, animal communication, but really a lot of diet, nutrition, lifestyle. Because Toby, I don't know why I was speaking to my cousin Tony this morning. So Toby,
I'm used to
so
it.
many people now, the challenges we're all facing have changed. And therefore, you've got to keep track of what's being thrown at us from all different directions. 50 years ago, we didn't need nutritionists because we didn't have so much choice. We were generally had real food that we could buy. But now it's really, really hard for people to learn how to feed themselves properly, for example. So what I do with the work I do in a nutshell is I look at bringing sort of science and nature together. As I say, I work with humans and animals to try and give people some really good information to try and make the best choices to get themselves healthy, wealthy, and happy, based on what's going on in today's world.
Brilliant. That sounds great. It's because you've got a lot of strings to your bow at the moment, and we were talking about this before. And I looked at your link tree earlier, and it's like, where do I go first? You're
Yes.
on every platform. How do you manage the content that you're putting out on each of
It's,
these different It must be a bit a bit confusing, I'd imagine,
yeah.
without a
I mean,
team.
it's a nightmare, really, because we'd all love there just to be one platform we can put stuff on. But like so many people, I learnt the hard way. So I had a really small YouTube channel, which was basically just education and training videos on animal health that I'd had for years. And then when 2020 hit, and I was like, this is just ridiculous, I I was starting to watch different content because I knew what we were being fed, just in my opinion, just didn't make any sense. And then I was seeing all these interviews, and I thought I never intended to go into interviewing other people. But I saw that people weren't asking the questions that I wanted to do. So my friend and I, we sort of thought, well, we'll put our brave pants on and just sort of ask, can we talk to you? And we didn't really expect people to start saying yes, but they did. So there was no real thought or planning that went into it. But then, of course, I wasn't au fait with all the YouTube guidelines because I've been doing quite innocent stuff. Although I have over the years had a lot of strikes on my website and things for telling people about natural remedies, which we'll come on to, because the powers that think they're in charge, they really don't like people taking their health back into their own hands. So when I then built up very quickly a very big YouTube channel, which really surprised me, but I think it's because there were so many people like us that just wanted to have different conversations that they couldn't necessarily have with immediate friends and family matters. But then I started getting all the strikes, and then overnight my channel disappeared, and you never get that content back. So it went from, I was at over 40,000 subscribers, and they just wiped it all overnight. So then I took a little bit of time off and thought, can I really be bothered? And then when I rebuilt, I realized I had to be a little bit more careful about what I was saying when. So therefore you start using things like BitChute, Rumble, and I've only just started building up sort of Instagram, because with my health work, that's a really good platform to share that, because I've probably evolved quite a lot in terms of, although I am speaking to one of my old friends, Mel K, this Friday, but I'm less talking about the problems so much now as more trying to talk about the solutions. But alas, a lot of us finding out that talking about solutions is also pretty censored on certain platforms, particularly when you're talking about natural solutions, not pharmaceutical ones.
Yeah, exactly. Natural healthcare has been around a lot longer than Moderna or whatever, hasn't it? I mean, it's been
Absolutely.
around for millions of years, and it's still around in the other half the world, and it works. You know, it works. You know, anything that isn't patent, uh, anything they can't patent, then they won't obviously let go, really, and they've got the powers to do that. So what's your thoughts on allopathic medicine in general and the health industry? Because it's not all bad, I don't think. I mean, especially for
No,
a couple of arm.
absolutely.
There's a lot
Yeah,
of very loving and decent people that work in those industries or
yeah.
institutions, let's call them. So what's your thoughts on that?
That's such a good point. And
Mm,
I think, there's a reason why it's meant to be called complementary medicine.
yeah,
And I think that the world has gone completely mad with this black and white thinking. And I think it's a deliberate ploy in terms of the way we've all been brainwashed. I did an episode yesterday on brainwashing and hypnosis, actually, for this reason. So, people are like, you've got to be 100% natural or allopathic. And I'm not like that at all. There's a place for anything. If I break my leg or one of my animals breaks their leg, or a couple of weeks ago, a family member had a major breathing episode. She needed emergency care. So for me, they're meant to be used in that way. That for me, the allopathic and the pharmaceutical route should always be a last resort. If you need stitching or sewing back together, if you've been in a major accident or something. But the complementary therapies, the natural, whether you're looking at food as a medicine, whether you're looking at herbs, whether you're looking at all the energy medicine, all the lifestyle issues, that should be a day-to-day thing that everyone incorporates into their daily lifestyle. And then when things go a little bit more wrong, you can use the allopathic, or what they call modern medicine, to get you back on track whilst you make the lifestyle changes to stop it happening again. Obviously, if you've been hit by a bus, it's not so much about lifestyle changes, although if you're stressed and you're not concentrating, you're more likely to walk out in front of that bus. But for me, I think we've got to get away personally from this is all good, this is all bad, because you can do a lot of damage with natural remedies as well if they're not used properly. And I've had to come off most Facebook groups now because I've seen a huge, so much misinformation out there. And sometimes we play into, as I like to call them, the dark controller's hands, because if people will take a little bit of information and then go start spreading it widely, and that can be really, really damaging. So for me, I think it's time to bring everything back into balance, ourselves and the information that we're using, and not tar everyone with the same brush as well. Because yes, I do think there is a dark agenda that is leading us down certain paths, but I equally think there's some really amazing people in allopathic medicine, human medicine, veterinary medicine that are really doing the best they can, and we do need them still.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I take medication. Well, I haven't actually done for a month and a half. But I take methotrexate, which is like a chemo drug. But
Mm.
it's for they discovered that actually for an autoimmune stuff it kind of suppresses it, which is quite good. So it stops your body stops it itself. Um, I don't know if that's a good thing or not because it's quite a hard-ass drug, but I'm off it now and my body started like falling apart again. So, but I mean, you do know a
Well,
lot of
there's lots we can do about that,
yeah,
though.
I
So we
know,
can
yeah,
talk
it's
about
my
that
fault.
offline.
My
Loads we can
habits
do.
probably and stuff I eat and drink and stuff. But you do a lot of courses one to one. You've got tons of stuff online already, haven't you, on your website? And you do. I've seen you as well do live speaking. So what's your do you do all of that all the time, or is it kind of you just kind of get the jobs when you get them, or because you've got so much going on.
I
I find it,
know.
you're
I
like
am going to have to cut down, actually. It's a
it's
really good
difficult to
point, though.
follow. Um,
Yeah. I love the live speaking because interacting with people in live events, I just love. And I tend to take an approach like we met at the Jackie White event. And I like to have an idea, but really go and sort of read the room and decide what I think there, and then go very intuitively about what to talk to there. So when I speak lively, it's very rarely planned. It's because it depends what the audience want, because there's so many different areas that all pull together. You know, for example, if we don't know what toxins are being pumped to us, how do we possibly know how to support our bodies against them? But where I'm really moving in, because probably realistically, I have been too busy the last few years. So what I'm really looking into, I also have a little animal sanctuary, which is my absolute passion, rescue animals, which take a lot of looking after. So I'm really putting a lot of effort now into the online programs, and they're really holistic programs. So I've got some for animals, I've got two brilliant ones for humans coming. Well, I'm looking at pulling all this knowledge, all this lifestyle knowledge together so that one, people can do it in the comfort of their own homes in their own time, because everyone's situation is different. And you know, people can't always start on the 8th of January for 8 weeks, because when you're dealing with people all over the globe, everyone's on a different time zone. So I think for me, when people are looking to make changes with their health, their lifestyle, their mindset, their wealth, it's really important that they can do it at their pace and not compare themselves with other people. And one of the good things about technology is the fact that you can support people all over the world. So my focus for the next year is going to be very much on running these programs and really supporting the people that are going through them really well, so that people can sort of almost stop listening to what everyone else is saying and actually do it and see the changes. Because when you're physically feeling so good, it's much more difficult to be brainwashed and fall for the propaganda and fall into that fear state. That's certainly my experience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, your thing on Facebook actually says free thinker, and
Mm,
that is, I mean, Elon Musk even, I don't know what you think of him, but even he was asked what's the biggest problem in society or whatever. I can't remember the question. Is like free thinking.
yeah.
That's all he said. Free thinking, the ability to think for yourself. And we saw that in 2020 of people that just they like to be looked after, and they don't have the skill set or the, let's say, the courage. They don't have the big girl pants, as you put it, to actually go and look for stuff, even just day-to-day things like how to be healthy. They have to ask someone else, like a doctor or a teacher or whatever, and often that someone else, as you've said, is not equipped with the right information. They've just heard something on the news, or that they've got information from someone else that's got information from someone else, and so on. So it's very difficult getting the content out to people, isn't it? And also getting them engaged. Because I mean, from my point of view, what you said at Jackie White's event in Romsey was, I don't know if you were channeling or something, but it was probably the most. I mean, I go to a lot of events, and I've focused a lot on what, like, this stuff all the time, pretty much. And what you said was just, oh my God, you literally answered every question I've got in my subconscious or in my consciousness, perfectly. It was amazing. I need to actually watch it back. I remember
Oh, if there's somewhere we can, because I've
yeah,
no
yeah,
idea what we said, because
yeah. It was
I
awesome.
honestly don't know what I said, Toby,
Yeah,
because what I try and do is I try and go into a room, just sort of park my ego at the door, which is hard because no one wants to look a complete idiot in front of other people, but then just read the energy and what's coming to me. So often, most of the time when I'm talking, I really can't remember what I've said. But what I loved about that event is the people that event attracted were just absolutely amazing. You know, I think you said a few really important things there. Like, you know, Elon Musk, interesting one. What do I think? I mean, I think it's Wayne Dyer that, you know, it's a sign of an intelligent mind. It was probably somewhere else, but I've heard Wayne Dyer say a sign of intelligent mind is to be open to everything and attached to nothing. And of course, that's very difficult because we've all got such ingrained belief systems. But if there's one thing I learned, there's a lot of advantages of getting older, is that you experience a lot more. And as you experience things yourself, you realize that so much of what you've been through is just not true at all. I'll give you a couple of examples. So about 10 years ago, I won't bore your listeners with the story of how I got involved in this because it was hysterical, but suffice to say, it started with a lost hamster that then got me involved with a pet detective and setting cameras up all over my home to try and find this hamster. And it's not a great home to be lost in when you've got 5 cats and 3 dogs. But my cats were on a program called The Secret Life of Cats. And there were all these cat experts and they tagged cats and they saw where they all go. And I was speaking to these experts. Now, I did specialize in animal behavior, but they were all experts and they completely poo-pooed me saying what my cats would do and how they interact. And then when they got the tracking data and they were like, this is really bizarre. They're just behaving not how the science shows us at all. And I was like, well, we knew that they were doing that. You just didn't listen. And the more you stay non-attached and open to everything, because the more we realize we've all been brainwashed to various different degrees. I've started talking a lot to cult survivors, and that may seem really weird. It's because we're all being brainwashed through the TV, through music, through teaching. Now it's so exciting for all of us because where did humans evolve from? Our whole history is up for grabs. Look at all the stuff coming out on Tartarian, who did build the pyramids. So when we stay in that open mindset, and it's not always easy, if someone starts talking to me about animal cruelty or something, I'm going straight into my belief systems. But when you try and stay open and just with a view of that's interesting, what if I'm wrong? What if my whole life I've been told to look over there when actually all the answers are in this bit that we can't look at, take Antarctica as an example. But I think this free thinking and not being brainwashed, our whole education system. I loved school. It was an escape to me, but I never believed what the teachers were teaching. That was the difference. I could memorize history, but there wasn't even a little bit of me, even at 7, that thought that was right. I was very well aware that anyone in different areas of the world would be taught something completely different about the world wars than we were in the UK. So that's what I'm passionate about doing. And this is why when you start with yourself and you start working with yourself and seeing what's possible, animals are even better to work with because they don't have the ego involved. So there's not so much resistance, but obviously you've got to always have consent. But when you start seeing how much you can change your physical health, your emotional health, I grew up, my mum would always say, you can't change your personality. Well, you can. We now know you can. But if you've been told this is an absolute fact, it can be really hard for people to break free of that. And luckily, our communities are the ones that have started to say, well, what if this has all been wrong, what I've said? What possibilities await us? Because we don't want the lifestyle a lot of us are living now, because it's tough for a lot of people. A lot of people are struggling with health-wise, finance-wise, feeling part of a community. Stress levels are off the scale. But what if this whole new future awaits us? And I think people like us are joining forces to show, well, it does. And each of us has got a little bit of the jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah, that's great what you've just said, actually, because I've been hyper focusing. I do that generally, and most of my decisions I make from a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis is within flow of some sort. Especially important ones. Like I'm 98% sure I'm going to homeschool, home educate, home learn my 2 children after Easter. They're quite young still. And like you're saying about pyramids, I've been absolutely every moment looking at. There's a channel called Prehistory Guys and stuff like that. Because I love like Glebly Tepe, whatever it's called, in Turkey. That's 22,000 years, and that, found one that's 30,000 years. So it just shows that the timelines were completely out, especially if you're religious, because it was like 5,000 years.
Exactly.
God created the world 5,000 years ago. And what else? There's loads. All the things you just mentioned. Like I've been looking at Perry Reese maps and the mapping Antarctica, and going on Google Earth and seeing. Like all the blotted out bits, like what's there?
How exciting for you, though. I'm going to stop and applaud you because my children are grown up now. They're 21 and 23. And hindsight is such a wonderful thing. And I was completely programmed by the Matrix. I grew up in a generation. I was the first person ever in my family to go to university, not because the others weren't clever enough, they just would never had the opportunity. They had to go straight out to work and earn money. So I was very grateful for the education I received. I really was. It wasn't conscious. I didn't know about gratitude then. I was just so grateful that I had the opportunities that none of my previous generations had had. But I think with your generation, if I had my time again now, I would 100% homeschool my children, although I think my children would be horrified because they'd probably just be mucking out animals all day and planting herbs in the garden.
What?
But what you've just said there, imagine the free thinkers your children will grow up if you can expose them to things like this. So, I went out and worked as a working mum, and all the things I think now I could sit there and hold my head and think, oh my God, and regret it. Or I could sort of put it into a positive way and sort of say, well, how fantastic if I can contribute some courses that people can use towards homeschooling. Because luckily my children have turned out very, very well. But if I'd have known what I know now, then I'd have made very different choices. And for me, what you've just said then is the most important thing that's come out of the last 3 years, is that people like you are now seriously considering homeschooling, and the facility, the range of stuff available to you are so different. And I posted something recently. I know I talk a lot, I am sorry,
That's fine.
but something recently where, people sort of said, 20 years ago, people thought homeschooled children were weird, but now it's okay for people to identify as cats and have litter trays in the school toilets. And this is where we've got to, is somehow there's something about the human nature where things have to get so bad before they make the changes. When my children were young, they weren't bad enough for me really to take that much notice, I'm ashamed to say, because they were always did well. But now people like you, this is what's going to change the whole world, because you are going to take that step, and your relationship and what they learn and their ability to think freely, and it's just wonderful. I'm so excited for that.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I've been just thinking about it, but it's not it's not a decision you make overnight. So it's taken me a
No.
month or two. So I've left it. I've hyper focused on it, like literally all day, every day. Left it, then looked at the other side of the equation, because as you've said yourself, a little bit of information, especially if you've got confirmation bias, can be very dangerous.
Mm.
And that could affect their whole life. And I've also trying to be quite careful. Well, not really, but without conditioning them. Like they go, Daddy, you don't like the government, do you?
Mm.
Or um, the energy is bad today, kind of things
Yeah,
like that. So that, oh God, because my eldest is very, very with it with regards
yeah,
to the stuff he gets. He's only like 8, but the stuff he gets, he understands. But my youngest does. He's not so bothered, so I don't bother really with him because he lives in the now and loses interest.
yeah.
You ask a question, you start answering it, it will just go on to something else. But I noticed the first video I watched, actually, it said, "Is it really that radical that I don't want my child to be with a complete stranger all day, every day, segregated by age and told what to do, when to do it, and how to do it? Is it really that radical? I want them to be by my side, going shopping with me, counting, learning through life process, and becoming closer. It's stuff like that, Why not? So yeah,
And that's what people have to think. And also, we tend to think as parents, it's such a big responsibility for parents, and none of us are going to get it all right. Because, like
yeah,
you said, each of our children is very unique. But bear in mind, none of these decisions are irreversible. One of my really good friends that I met when I had my son, my eldest, she homeschooled. And back then, no one did it. I mean, it was so unusual. She was the only person I knew who homeschooled. But then later in life, her children then went seamlessly into secondary education because they decided they want to. So it's not like you're making a decision that's for the rest of your life and you can't change it, because the world's changing all the time, and therefore we've got to change with it. So, I also know people now where they've got one child that's in mainstream education and one that's not, because they are very different. And that's the case with my children. So I think it's just wonderful that so many parents now, like you, are really asking those questions now, and looking into alternatives. And I think that's what we've got to do in all aspects of our life. Why are we paying all these taxes? Why are we charged so much? Why are we not learning about water? Why are we told that fossil fuels are running out? Why? Like we used to as children. I was one of those children that always asked why so much that the teachers would move me to the back of the class because I was annoying. Not necessarily because I was being really naughty, but I couldn't let them get on. They wanted to deliver their lesson, and I was asking all these questions. I mean, it must be so annoying when you've got 30 children to deal with. But I think this is the thing, is as adults, if we get that childlike curiosity and not making one thing right or wrong, but what if everything we've been told is wrong? I'm burning my wood burning stove now. My neighbour's amazing. He goes and collects fallen wood from the thing. You're really telling me they're trying to ban wood burning stoves? You're telling me it's worse for the nature to burn trees that you found in your local area against all the other forms of fuel? It's just ridiculous. I'm not washing it, I'm afraid. We've got to have the courage to sit there and question, but also be open to being wrong and learning based on new information.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a lot out there, and I'm as like you are. To just take it all on neutral and not get too not there's so many rabbit holes I see people going down, and they're just like, well, flat earth or whatever. And that's part of the distraction. It's a test, I think. Because I
Yeah.
mean, you're holistic, you understand the spiritual side of life.
Mm.
And it is a test. It's great fun, really, when you look at it. It's not that bad. It's not
It
like
is
I'm being
great fun.
waterboarded or something, in a
Exactly.
prison. And so, but even then, you still got your imagination.
Yeah, and imagination is key. I mean, again, I can't remember who said it, but that people, we don't have stuff put into our imagination which isn't possible. And I think this is all about challenging. I've done a lot of the Joe Dispenza events. I know we spoke about that at Jackie White. I've been doing sort of holistic alternative care long enough to see animals and humans have complete miraculous spontaneous healing. So I know it's possible. I know it's possible against all the odds, but also I understand that, as you said, that the other more deeper spiritual side of things, that you can't change someone's mindset for them. You can't heal them if they're not open to being healed for whatever reason that is. So all these fine tuning, I think the biggest thing I've learned is there isn't a one size fits all, but actually when we take it right back to sensible principles, it was brilliant what you just said about homeschooling. Like, seriously, it's pretty common sense. We don't know, not everyone knows how toxic farmed salmon is, because most normal people that aren't psychopaths wouldn't think that anyone would ever do this to our food supply or treat animals so cruelly. However, it's pretty common sense that if you grow an apple tree in your garden and pick an apple off there, it's going to be a lot healthier than one that's been transported all the way around the world that doesn't even look like a real apple anymore. So when we start taking responsibility for ourselves and saying, come on now, I have this discussion with people all the time. It's like, if you've got a dog or a cat and you're feeding it kibble from a bag or tinned food, and you're feeding that animal the same thing every day, just because the vets told you that that's the food that a 10-year-old spaniel should have, you are not that stupid. I'm sorry, you're not. If you wouldn't do it yourself, don't do it to your animal. No animal can eat the same thing every day and be healthy. No animal can eat a processed brown lump every day and be healthy. So sometimes I think we like to use excuses. Here comes Mitzi on cue. I hope she doesn't push my computer off, to stop us having to put the effort in to do the work. Because deep down, I don't believe if anyone really believes that's true.
Yeah, interesting that, because I've looked into some of your dog stuff, and I actually walked into a pet shop the other day because I was bored. Kids are at karate, and oh my God, the amount of food that's in there and the cost of it all. I was like, bloody hell, like the because I've reasonably recently two dogs that have gone. Actually, I fed them on the cheapest dried food. Don't judge me. But the vet actually said this dog has got the best teeth I've ever seen in my whole career. I don't know why. And they were really healthy actually until the end. And funny you say that actually about the. I'm going off topic here, but the my dog was going outside in the snow to die. So it's choosing to die basically, which was
Yeah.
which was cool. And I picked up this great big Rottweiler several times, brought him back into the house, and did the most powerful healing. I only ever use it really for moments like that. I don't advertise that. I don't tell anyone really. Most powerful healing on him. I slept with him like all night. Woke up and he's running all over the shop. And I could actually walk him to the pub after that and back.
Wow.
So yeah, that's really good. But I lost a fish this morning, so I'm not too happy about that.
I love
Um, but
fish.
it chose to go. I mean, I've been trying to hand feed it, and
Mm,
it had fin problems, and I think it's natural. It's a shoal,
mm,
and our child bought two new fish, which I think it's pushed, and as they've got bigger, it's pushed
mm,
the shoal to its limit, and that one always goes. I've noticed that. Actually, you were talking about salmon. A lot of it's
mm.
like the lice treatments and stuff, isn't it? I've got a degree in salmon fishing, pretty much, and trout
Wow.
fishing. Yeah, so I've been there and done it, and I've seen the treatment of the fish to start with, and also all the crap that they give them. I mean, we did a trial, for example. It's called the trout trial, for trout, and they were trying to get trout on non-meat food. This this is a carnival. These poor little things. We had all these. It's proper big trial, and so you run through. Some of them are getting fed proper food. It goes all the way down to like cardboard, basically.
Mm.
These poor little things, just like at the end. These other ones like that. These ones like it's just disgraceful,
It's
really.
horrific.
I
And
was
it's,
definitely not proud of being part of that.
yeah, it is horrific,
Mm.
that when we think, and the fact that we as human natures, where a lot of us are getting so outraged about the way we've been treated, and we say things like they're treating us like cattle. And I'm like, you're missing the point. We shouldn't be treating cattle like that. We shouldn't be treating any animal like that. I mean, to treat a fish like that, or a factory farmed animal of any species, is so barbaric that unfortunately, energetically, what are you putting out there and what are you accepting? And if it's all right for you to do it to another animal or species, why do we not think it's all right for someone else who's a bit higher up the pecking order to do it to us? And I think this is the time we've reached at now where, as much as we can without being depressing, we have to re-examine all of our decisions we're making, and all of them, and take responsibility for them. Because I'm a strong believer in the law of attraction, in terms of, but that your life is a reflection of what you're putting out there, and we're not doing it intentionally. None of this is about blame. We only know what we know. But if we do keep that open mind, and we don't jump straight to ridicule or insult someone that's got a different opinion, then how can we possibly ever change any aspect of our lives? And what's the point? I'm not going to be one of those people that's going to spend my life moaning about things. I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you get it wrong, and you hope it's not too disastrously wrong, so you live to try something different next time.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what I got from you energetically as soon as I met you, pretty much in Romsey. You're like quintessentially quite pure. There's no bollocks with you. Not everyone likes to be a leader,
Yeah,
but they can be a shining light to those people that want to follow or just get guidance and help. And if they can see you're pure, you know, um, and you're not messing around basically, then they will go with you. But
very interesting.
yeah,
And I think, the thing is I really appreciating everyone's little bit. I've been so disappointed in the community that have been talking out, and I just be complete transparent with this. I've been so disappointed by the ego side of things. The whole point is none of us know everything. No one ever does. Everyone's got a little bit of the jigsaw puzzle, and if we can all pull those together, we can all just appreciate each other in a much better way. And this comparison is so dangerous. And I think it's done deliberately again. It's a very difficult cycle to get out of, because everyone's caught in that survival mode. Of course, not everyone, but it's when you catch yourself, and also having really good friends that will pick you up on it when you are sort of straying off course a bit, not in terms of not letting you learn your own lessons, but in terms of just, everyone needs those good friends in their life that are going to say, hey, you don't seem quite yourself. You seem to be going off a bit, who, because sometimes it's the new influences we have in our lives that sort of take over and shift us energetically. So the way I look at life, is, and I am lucky because, I've had so many different careers. Everyone used to laugh at me when I left university. You were meant to get a career with a good job and stay there, work your way up the ladder and get your pension. And I've never wanted to do that. And so I've worked in water quality. I've got a master's in groundwater chemistry 25 years ago. Well, why? It seemed irrelevant at the time. Telecoms, all the EMF side of things. Waste management, all the environmental pollution. I've worked with consultancy for the National Health Service and seen all the data fiasco and all these careers that don't link together, that everyone took the mickey out of me and sort of said, why are you doing this? And then going off to be an equine iridologist to read the iris of the eye. And I could never see a link in them until 2020. And then suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, this is why I can see, compared to a lot of people, a lot more of the spectrum, because I have seen how damaging this is, how damaging that is, how damaging. And if I just stayed in one lane, no wonder people don't see it, because they're so focused in such a narrow direction. They've forgotten to be able to look elsewhere.